And I grew up in just an amazing Christian home. My parents always had me in church, but when I started going to college, I got a job at a pharmacy, and before I knew it, I was taking the pills that I was supposed to be selling, and I quickly became addicted to the drug Oxycontin. It's a very painful or strong pain medicine. And I would get so sick whenever I didn't have this medicine, but yet I would make myself get up and get out of bed every day to go get it. And it was just, I knew I shouldn't be living that life, but I didn't know how to, quit taking it. And my brother found out about a place called a methadone clinic, which is designed to slowly wean you off of this drug. But sure enough, I got addicted to that drug. And but while I was at the clinic, I met this guy, and we started dating and became engaged. And he seemed fine at first, just like any other guy. But the more I was around him, I realized that he had just a lot of mental problems, just very unstable. And so I broke the engagement off with him. And apparently he just got really angry at me for doing this. And I have no memory of anything that happened. But he called me over one night and said he was going to kill himself if I didn't come over. And so I went over there, and when I got there, he gave me a drink that had the drug GHB in it, and it caused me to pass out. And when it did, he suffocated me. And when he saw that I was no longer breathing, he called the paramedics and told them that I had overdosed to come get me, and he just left me there for dead. And the police got there, and they checked my vital signs. I wasn't breathing, and I had no heartbeat, and so they just pronounced me dead on arrival. And then the paramedics got there shortly after and immediately tried to start resuscitating me. And they continued trying for 20 minutes, but after 20 minutes, they were told by their supervisor to quit trying to resuscitate, because after going that long for, without having a heartbeat or without oxygen to your brain, that you'd be brain dead, that you can't survive that. And so they were told to stop. But they said they couldn't explain it. Something just came over them, and so they just continued working on me all the way to the hospital. My parents got a phone call at 5 o'clock in the morning telling them to come immediately to the emergency room. They weren't told why. They just were told to get down there. And nothing at that point had changed, and they told my parents that I had not survived. And my dad just fell on his face and just started praying out to God just to save me, to take his life and not my own. And I believe God honored that prayer, because after going 57 minutes and 37 seconds with no heartbeat at all, and breaking all the bones in my chest and shocking me several times with a defibrillator, they were able to pick up a faint heartbeat. But 2 days later, I had a massive heart attack from the stress that it caused on my body, and I was on complete life support. And they told my parents that it was not, that I would not survive, that you just can't go that long without oxygen to your brain. If I did survive, that I would be in a permanent vegetative state for the rest of my life. And but they never quit praying for me. But after 2 weeks, they had to make the decision whether they were going to take me off the life support or not. And my brother stayed back, and he was holding my hand, and my parents had left actually to go pick out my casket that day. My brother was holding my hand, and he just begged me. He's like, if you can hear me do anything, just squeeze my hand. And I started squeezing his hand, and he ran and got the nurse, and the nurse said, no, unfortunately, that's an involuntary movement that your body does right before it dies. And she went back, and I did it again, and sure enough, I was starting to come to, and that was the beginning of me coming back. And but it was just a really long process. It took about 1.5 years, and I had to learn how to walk again, and how to talk, how to read and write. I couldn't do anything on my own. For a long time, I had to walk with a walker. I couldn't even put one foot in front of the other. And but God is so good, and I was able to start school back again. But I was a senior when all of this happened, and I was a double major in Russian history and anthropology, and I tried to go right back to school where I'd left off, but my memory had been so greatly affected, I couldn't remember anything. And so I had to start back as a freshman, and I got really angry at God for why he was putting me through all of this. Instead of looking to him and being grateful for saving me, I got angry that I was having to struggle so much. And the doctors, it's weird the way that my brain rewired itself when all of this happened. I looked the same on the outside, but I had a totally different personality. I was a different person. The doctors had never experienced anything like this, and so they didn't know how to tell me, how to cope with something like this or explain to me what I was going through. And so I was just on my own with all of these new emotions, and the only way that I knew how to deal with them was to go right back to drugs, and that's what I did. And it was even worse than it was before. But then I also had all this guilt for what I was doing to God, because I knew He didn't save me for me just to be this hopeless drug addict. And so finally I cried out to Him, and He brought me here, and I'm so grateful. But looking back on it, I don't know why He chose to save me, why He saves some people and why He doesn't. I don't have a clue why He chose to save me, but all I know is that I graduate in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to walk out those doors, and I'm going to live the rest of my life praising His name and giving Him glory for what He's done in my life. Thank you.
Amen.